Hello and welcome to episode number 67 of the Rollo and Slappy Show. I am Rollo McFlugel and with me is Slappy Jones 2 and we are both at McFlugel.com. This episode will be posted on Monday, November 27th, 2017. It's actually the day before. Our schedules aren't going to work out in the next couple weeks, so we're pre-recording some episodes, so that's hence the delay of me saying what day it is. So, show notes page for this episode is mcflugel.com/67, and I'm going to hand it over to Slappy Jones. He's actually sitting right next to me right now, and he's going to introduce our topic.
Yeah, thank you, Rollo. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And took a little while to teach Rollo how to use a calendar, but we got it, and he did well on that one. He found the right date.
On the fly, too.
Yeah, that was good.
And it's just after midnight, so that threw me off, too. I thought it was still Saturday.
Yeah, no, we're the day before. So anyway, today's episode was Rollo's idea. This is something you've probably heard plenty if you're talking to your Republican and Democrat friends about the president or about politicians in general. You'll bring up something like, in the Middle East we're fighting with Al Qaeda in Syria and against Al Qaeda in Iraq. We're fighting both sides. We're supporting the terrorists. Da 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 da. And they'll reply, "We've heard it a million times." Well, the president has information that we're just not privy to. How do you know what's going on? And it's kind of like we should just trust these politicians. And it's, I guess, a nice deflection for them. But I'm going to pass it back to Rollo. And Rollo, what do you think when someone says, well, the president has information we're just not privy to?
Yeah, I think it's just a huge cop-out. The idea, and this is how it was described to me the other day and how it normally is. Because I asked, we're talking about Trump, and I made the comment that Donald Trump, the candidate, is a lot different than Donald Trump, the president, as far as his foreign policy goes. That was one of the things that some libertarians and other people kind of had the hope for, that, he's probably going to be terrible, but maybe, just maybe, he might make a change in foreign policy, which he obviously has not.
Just to cut you off, this is another interesting thing I would hear from Republicans a lot. Like when Obama first got elected and he talked about closing Guantanamo, and then the Republicans will come back, yeah, see, you did talk a big game, but when you get in, you find out the real information.
Right.
So I guess it's a thing the Republicans like to use.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if Democrats do too, but.
Yeah, I guess it's a use it whenever your guy doesn't do what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
But it got framed to me as saying, well, he says what he wants to do when he's a candidate, but then once you're president, they sit you down and they say, well, this is what's really going on. And then that's why you have to make the adjustments and why you make those decisions that they do. And my first reaction to saying this was, well, if that's the case, then you can't ever criticize any president for anything, because all he has to do, or all anyone has to say is, oh, well, he's got the information you don't have, so how can you criticize him? And it makes sense. It's an unfalsifiable claim, but why is it that only your guy can have that excuse? Anyone can make that excuse for anyone. And it's not that it's not logical, because it is. There's plenty of situations where someone has more information than you do and they make a decision that doesn't make sense to you because you're missing a big piece of information that would change things. It's the premise behind Occam's razor. You assume the simplest solution or answer based on the information you have, and you adjust what your conclusion is as you get more information. But I don't think most people are interested in following through on the consequences of that sort of logic, or what this means if that is true. So there's, the one that you can't criticize any other presidents that you disagree with, but there's also something a lot bigger at stake.
Right.
You want to talk about that, Slappy?
Well, what I was going to say is many of these same people who say, well, the president has is privy to more information than we are also the same people who say the government is the voice of the people. And so if you have a presidential candidate out there saying X and the voice of the people voting are voting for X, but then he gets in there and has to do whatever he does, well, then it's not really the voice of the people, is it?
Right, especially when it's just those guys, whoever those guys are, sit you down and explain what's actually going on. I mean,
they're kind of arguing for the deep state.
Right, exactly. You no longer have a representative democracy or a representative republic that you think you have. And you're also saying that you are okay with it. You know, you're agreeing that it's okay, that you're being sold a representative government, but you're not actually getting it, not even close. And it's not even just it's the government necessarily, because you look at there's this American soldier killed in Niger, and apparently, I think it was Niger or Mali. There's a couple places that you just find out that, the United States has troops in these countries. Apparently, a lot of Congress had no idea. So your representatives that are there are supposed to, because the president's the president, he's not supposed to be, he's supposed to just be the executive, so you have your congressmen, your representatives, obviously representing you, but they're not even aware of what's going on, apparently. So it's like an oligarchy that's just has this dictator in the middle of it. Is how it's functionally happening.
Or the dictator, wouldn't be the president.
Right.
Right? Because the president gets elected and then can't do all the things he said he was going to do that his people picked for him to do. So who is the dictator? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you got to think. If you're saying the president is told all these things, well, someone's telling him this stuff.
Right. So we don't even know. You don't even know who your government actually is.
Right. But it's certainly not a representative democracy or republic or whatever they try to sell it to you as.
Right. So it's funny how there is a shred of, probably not more, much more than a shred, of truth behind them saying, well, the president goes in and, then he gets told how it's really going to go. Yeah, exactly. And you think that's okay? You think that's not a huge problem?
Right. And really, this was, I was talking to Rollo before the show and saying, as I was first learning this libertarian thought and the philosophy behind it, it was one of the things that struck me is that there really shouldn't be any confidential information. There shouldn't be any top secret information. If this is the voice of the people, we should know all this stuff. We should be aware of it and be able to vote on it and have some kind of decision in guiding our politicians.
Whoa. So are you saying that we should make public all of the war secrets and all of the engagements they're about to do? Because that's what you're saying, really?
Right. Well, that whenever I would bring this up, that's what they would come back. So you're telling me we should not have top secret military plans? That'll put our guys in danger. Well, isn't it kind of like if you're doing something and not telling people about it because it will put them in danger, you probably shouldn't be doing that thing. Right. Right? Like, maybe we should stop doing that stuff. If people knew about it and then we'd all be in danger for it, maybe we shouldn't do it to begin with.
Right. And it kind of demonstrates the catch-22 of trying to have a representative government and also trying to make it functional. Because for them to do a lot of stuff they do, they kind of have to keep certain secrets.
Of course.
But it flies in the face of what's supposed to be there. And, I guess you can argue that, well, we elect the representatives to be able to handle those secrets. But, we already know that they're not getting told what's going on. And two, how do you even know what you're asking them to be a secret? Like, you're flying blind. It doesn't... You're asking for problems because it's a system that can very easily be abused by saying that, I'm going to have someone do stuff for me, but I'm not going to know what he's actually doing.
Right? How can you vote for someone if you don't know the information?
Right.
Right. Like if all those Obama voters voted to close Guantanamo and then he gets to be president and has some top secret information that totally changes his mind on that, well, then is it representative government? Of course it's not. And I think what Rollo just said and what we would say is, yeah, a government does have to keep secrets. That's the point. But then it's no longer this great democracy and republic that you talk about.
Right. And, my solution, just get rid of it.
Right. Well, that's exactly where I'm going with that. It should be expected that they're not. That's when I say a government should have top secret, or whatever I just said, what I mean by that is if you have a government, it should be expected that they're not being honest to you.
Right.
It's in their interest not to be honest, and they never will be, and they never have been. And in fact, if you talk to most people, these same people who say the president is privy to information that we don't have, if you tell them you hate all politicians in a separate conversation, they'll probably agree with you. But then once you tell them you're an anarchist and you hate all politicians, then they'll back the politicians. But if you have an honest conversation before you tell them you're an anarchist, they usually say, yeah, I agree, I hate politicians. But then you want to trust these people you hate with all these top secret information and making these decisions that apparently make us less safe because if we knew about them, we'd all freak out and be angry. I think you got to look yourself in the mirror and think a little harder about what you're saying.
Right. And even if you're okay with all of that and having, unnamed, unknown government officials calling all the shots, then stop lying to yourself about what it is. Just be honest about it and say, hey, look, we don't actually have a representative democracy or representative government. It's an oligarchy that people are just pulling strings and it's run by these bureaucrats. Just be honest. Don't make it something it's not to make yourself feel better, because that's all it really is.
Of course.
Is we have the Constitution and that's what's there and that protects us. And okay, the flowery language is great, but it hasn't done hasn't been of any help. And you can see what we're left with right now. So.
We just got to get back to that Constitution.
I know. If we just follow the Constitution, then all of our problems will be solved.
When was it that, when did the Constitution, when did the Constitution go away? Because everyone says get back to the Constitution. When did they stop using the Constitution?
It was probably sometime after, the Whiskey Rebellion,
I think it was
right?
Obama.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with, the Whiskey Rebellion
no, none of that.
Or, the immediate...
But then we'll go to what Lysander Spooner said.
Yes. That the state, or the Constitution has either been designed to get us to where we are today or is utterly powerless to prevent it. Either way, it is unfit to exist. That's not a direct quote, that's me.
It's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And so, to you people who just say we have to get back to the Constitution, well, the Constitution never left.
Right.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
It's always been the justification for every law. So, there's
And
that.
if you can't have people follow the Constitution, then what good is it?
It's just a piece of paper.
Right. It has no teeth. So, I don't know. Anything else you want to add to this?
Speaking of the Constitution, I had federal jury duty on Monday
Ooh.
and Tuesday. 2 days of one trial. So, we'll see how that goes. If it's anything like the past, I won't get picked for any juries.
Right.
But
they don't like Irish people?
I guess not. They did make me fill out a questionnaire and said, we need your race so we can avoid... You had to fill in the race question, and they say it's to avoid discrimination.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would they do if you filled in something that you weren't then?
Good question. I don't know.
Huh. You should try that. You should risk imprisonment for my
well, they do put that little
my curiosity.
Scary little everything you sign your name to better be true, or it's perjury and you get 30 days in jail. Or it might be 3 years. I don't know what it is. But I completed it, sent it in, and now I have my jury duty.
Nice.
So I'll let you know how it goes.
Sounds good. All right, so to do a quick free market success story, I wanted to bring up that Mance Rayder has a new book that he just published called Freedom Through Memedom, the 31-Day Guide to Waking Up to Liberty. And it's available on Amazon.com, and we'll link to this on the show notes page, as well as Mance's Twitter page.
Yeah, go check him out and follow him. He's got a ton of great memes.
Oh, yeah, he's a great follow. He's also hosts the podcast. It's worth checking out. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, one, to plug it for him. And I bought the book the other day, so I'm waiting for it to come in, and I will read it. And we'd like to get him on this podcast to talk about it. Calling you out. But the reason we're bringing it up as a free market success story is that you can just think a couple years ago, if you wanted to publish a book, especially someone like Mance, he's known in libertarian circles, but he's got some pretty far out there views, considering where the rest of the world is. He falls pretty much right in line where we are. But we have crazy views compared to the rest of polite society. So to go around and be to a bunch of publishers and be like, hey, you don't know who I am, but I have this book I want to publish. It's difficult. Not that it can't be done, but it's difficult. It's expensive. It's time consuming. But nowadays, we have Amazon and other services where you just, it takes more work, a little bit more work than this, but you send them the script and they basically do all of the work, and you have a book, and you have to do the marketing and everything for it, but they don't charge you for it. It's free to do, and maybe this is a lot more work than I'm giving credit for, and Mance can correct me on it. But literally anyone with an internet connection has the opportunity to get a book published. And not just like an ebook. It comes, you get this book, and I'm looking at the screen right now, it comes in a paperback. So that's really awesome. So it really helps with freedom of speech and allowing anyone to get their message out. And it's lowering the barrier to entry to writing books. And
wouldn't have been possible just a couple of years ago.
Right. We complain for good reason about how terrible a lot of the world is. But at the same time, this is why we do these free market success stories, is take a step back and see all the progress that's been.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think that. This sounds mean. It's incredible. Like, Mance Rayder can even publish a book.
But really, because of his views, did you hear of this? Where would you find this stuff without the free market? It wasn't going to be taught in schools, that's for sure.
Exactly. So definitely check out this book. Again, we'll have it on the show notes page, mcflugel.com/67.
Also, Scott Horton wrote the foreword for it.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Cool. So, yeah, big congratulations for Mance. I'm looking forward to reading it. And so on the show notes page, you'll find a link to that.
We'll also put a picture of a tractor.
Yeah, I almost forgot this, and I even wrote the note that this opens up for me the opportunity to write a book about tractors.
Ooh, you did have it planned.
Yeah.
So we were getting to the end. I was trying to save them.
Also on the show notes page, you'll find links to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, as well as following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and there's a couple other outlets that we have. Too numerous to say individually, so...
Find them all at mcflugel.com.
Yep. So we'll catch you next week.
Peace.
Thanks for listening.